This is Matthew Kratter from Bitcoin University, and today I wanted to talk about Bitcoin citadels and Bitcoin countries. This is a follow-up to yesterday's video in which I talked about how U.S. politicians and political candidates are increasingly courting Bitcoiners, which is a really interesting phenomenon that's taking place on both sides of the aisle. And this question arose in the comments section: do we vote for Bitcoin politicians, or at least politicians who say or pretend that they're friendly to Bitcoin? Or instead, do we move to Bitcoin-friendly jurisdictions, or a mixture of both? And so I wanted to make this video to provide a collection of resources, both for you and for myself, when I'm thinking about these sort of things. And I wanted to provide this collection of resources that you can reference as you think about the future and what it looks like for Bitcoiners globally. This is also a follow-up to Manfred Van Doorn's question. Hey, Matt, thanks for your continuing education. Would you think that we should create a parallel economy within our society that serves as an alternative for the current banker oligarchy, or should we spend some sats on these politicians? It sounds like paying a corrupt system to stop corruption. Could we live within a decaying society to bring hope, or should we all move to El Salvador? And one of my answers was we should probably pursue all of these options with an emphasis on creating new structures, new societies, and the more that we earn in sats and spend our sats, the sooner this parallel economy can get off the ground. So I will link to this in the description notes below yesterday's video. And it was in this video that I talked about how ultimately the best way to vote, the best vote, is with your money and your feet. You basically leave jurisdictions that don't treat you well. You take your Bitcoin with you. This is the whole sovereign individual thesis, which is a great book if you haven't read it. And you can't take your real estate or gold or stocks or bonds. So Bitcoin serves this unique purpose. I wanted to share this meme as part of it. Opt out of fiat, vote Bitcoin with Satoshi as Uncle Sam. I thought that was pretty good. So there are a couple different approaches one can take when thinking about this. And when thinking about Bitcoin countries, Bitcoin citadels, changing jurisdictions, and how to act without working directly within the political system. So a couple of those approaches are: one, you could start a new country outright. We're going to talk about this more in this video. But the problem with this is you probably will get shut down by the military of an existing country or by the police of an existing country. Another approach is network with Bitcoiners from around the world, both online and in person. This is obviously one of the approaches that I've taken. And if you think about it, Bitcoiners are already a global tribe. We are a distributed and decentralized country. We're sort of a decentralized, distributed country of like-minded people who all love Bitcoin and see it as this hope for the future. So that's another version. A more extreme version or a more intense version would be to move to one of these Bitcoin communities like Bitcoin Beach, Bitcoin Island. At the end of this video, I'm going to provide a list of a lot of these places. Number 4 would be to have a large family and basically create your own mini tribe of Bitcoiners or village of Bitcoiners by basically creating them with your spouse. And in this way, you can sort of create a country within a country or some combination of the above. And so that's what we're going to be covering in this video. Before I get into that, though, I just ask you, if you haven't subscribed yet to my channel, if you could subscribe now, it would mean a lot to me and help us to get to 200,000 subscribers. Also leave a like and a comment. It was funny because when I was working on this video, I came across a couple of tweets from Eric Kaysen, who's a very smart sort of Bitcoin philosopher. And so I wanted to share those tweets with you as part of this discussion. This is from May 22nd. Eric saying that Bitcoiners need to build their own city somewhere in America where their ethos and culture can freely develop. Maybe a rural place with stranded energy, friendly-ish regulations, and affordable land for young families to come and build. Where would this be? He also says that he has this idea of buying an island in Alaska that has geothermal to do this. It's not a half bad idea. We would specialize in steel production and heavy equipment manufacturing. Being in the Aleutians is a good strategic location for such a place. He follows that up with an actual real estate listing in, it looks like the name of the city or the area is Unalaska. It's in Alaska, and it's a Bering Pacific ranch that's for sale. And Eric says we're going to use the volcano to develop a gigawatt geothermal plant, a little similar to what El Salvador wants to do with their volcano city. Use the volcano to develop a gigawatt geothermal plant for the world's largest mining facility to heat the city, terraform the land with heated greenhouses and lights to grow perennials, free electricity to all residents. You can actually see this listing. I'll link it in the description notes below. Yeah, I think it's approximately something like $15 million. But this is something that Bitcoiners could get together and purchase. I see the only downside to this is it's obviously very isolated and it would be very dark in the winter, which would be something that I would have trouble with. There have been many attempts over the years that you may or may not be familiar with. The seasteading movement is a prominent one that sort of emerged out of Silicon Valley, thanks to the work of Patrick Friedman, who's a grandson of Milton Friedman, and I've spent some time with Patrick Friedman over the years. Seasteading is basically this idea of starting your own country by building a city or a small city or village on a platform or on some floating thing in the middle of the ocean. One of the difficult things about this are rogue waves, 100-foot rogue waves. And the other problem with this is you also leave yourself open to military attack or naval attack. But I think it's a very clever idea, and this idea is to have many, many different independent countries that compete with one another. So I want to link to seasteading in the description notes below. I'll link to this website, the official seasteading website, Reimagining Civilization with Floating Cities. And you can read through here. There's some pretty cool mock-ups. So this is a movement in progress. Then I also wanted to refer to a couple other attempts at creating countries. Perhaps the most famous one is the micronation of Sealand, which was developed on an anti-aircraft platform in the middle of the ocean off the coast of Britain. And according to this article, this country, this small principality, actually won the International Egg Throwing Championship in 2008. They've also had a bunch of issues, obviously, being off the coast of Britain and being so close. They've been attacked by hired mercenaries. They've had hostage situations. Courts have tried to shut them down, etc. But this is an interesting history to take a look at, and I will link to the wiki article on it as well as this article about the nation off the coast of England. You can see that it is quite small. It's definitely a micro nation. So you can investigate that. I also wanted to refer to Balaji's tweet thread here, where he talks about there are only two places where governments are more trusted than any business in the world. Only two countries capable of attracting investors from around the world. And he gives the examples of Singapore and the UAE, United Arab Emirates, which we've already spoken about as being a country that is mining Bitcoin. As part of this tweet, he talks about millionaire migration. This is kind of an interesting map to take a look at. We can see millionaires losing, or we can see Russia, China, Hong Kong, etc., losing wealthy people. U.S. continues to gain wealthy people. Australia, New Zealand continues to gain wealthy people. I think it's interesting to take a look at this, not because we care especially what millionaires are doing, but it might provide some signal in terms of people who have the means and where they choose to relocate for their own safety. Obviously, El Salvador is the number one example here of a country that is in the process of moving to a Bitcoin standard and has done a lot to, at least as an outsider, it appears they've done a lot to cut down on crime, obviously to make Bitcoin legal tender. And there are a lot of positive developments, so I have not yet been in El Salvador. It looks like they're definitely doing something right. Here's an article from January of 2022 in which the IMF urges El Salvador to remove Bitcoin as legal tender. So if you have the IMF or the WEF mad at you, you definitely know that you're doing something correct. So in terms of Bitcoin communities that are scattered around the world, I just wanted to highlight some of the major ones so you can research them and perhaps visit some of them. Bitcoin Beach was really the original one. This is El Zonte in El Salvador. Looks like an absolutely beautiful place, and they've developed a circular economy. It was really Bitcoin Beach that I think inspired Bukele and led the way for the entire country moving to a Bitcoin standard. We have Lago Bitcoin, Bitcoin Lake in Guatemala, which I'll link to below. We have Bitcoin Ekasi in South Africa, which looks quite interesting. We have Boracay, Bitcoin Island. I'll link to this as well as Cloud21 Sirgao. I'll link to this in the description notes below. This was an interesting tweet from Stack Hodler. He might be someone interesting to talk to if you want to talk about this topic. Thinking of developing a network of citadels. There's this thing called Citadel Theory or Bitcoin Citadels, where people envision what they're going to do with their purchasing power and their wealth derived from Bitcoin as we enter hyper-Bitcoinization. And one of these ideas is very similar to creating your own country, but maybe on a smaller scale. So this is, I think, an interesting project, thinking of developing a network of citadels for Bitcoiners to cohabitate during the coming monetary revolution, rent by week or month, close to nature and agriculture, in stable Bitcoin-friendly jurisdictions. distance from the fiat clown world. And this is definitely a very attractive ad in terms of the pictures here. There's another, there's a Twitter account, Max DeMarco. He has a website, he has a YouTube channel as well. It's a small YouTube channel, but I wanted to highlight it because his videos are quite good. This is where he's visiting Rob in Croatia. Here's the YouTube version of it, as well as his visit with Gigi, who's dressed all in green here for the sake of privacy. So these are definitely two videos that are worth checking out. You can imagine, based on the vision of all these people, you can imagine thousands of Bitcoin citadels spread all over the world. And you have citadels that come in all these different shapes and sizes: vegan citadels, carnivore citadels, psychedelic citadels, Christian citadels, Buddhist citadels, any religion or spirituality citadels, casual citadels, fancy citadels. You can really imagine that you can have as many different kinds of citadels as there are different kinds of people. And the vision here would be not just a castle or something like that, but also a local economy powered by Bitcoin, run over mesh nets or run over satellite internet if internet was a problem, something like maybe like the Blockstream satellites or the next iteration of them. And then you could also imagine a world in which these Bitcoin citadels are connected to each other through some sort of telecommunication or some other way of communicating, maybe sending messages over the Lightning Network as well. And I think this is a very interesting vision. This would be something that would be much more difficult to stop if you have thousands and thousands of citadels. If you try to found a new country and try to make it a tax dodge or a tax haven, this is much more difficult. Though people have succeeded. There was the founder of Singapore who was extremely successful. It's not clear that you can found your own country in today's age of surveillance and control. So I'd like to end this video by asking you, my audience, have any of you been to El Salvador lately, since in the last year or two, since Bukele has made all these changes? What was your experience like? Also, if you know of an interesting place in the world that might be good for Bitcoiners to congregate, if you can highlight that. One of the things I'm trying to think through is what part of the world is going to be the safest for Bitcoiners 10 years from now, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years from now. Do you really want to be far away? This is one way of starting. Is there a particular country or area that you want to be really far away from? And depending your views and where you're from, you may have different answers to this. So I'm interested in getting the most global answer that I can by listening to all of you. Do you want to be really far away from China and the CCP? Do you want to be very far away from Russia and Putin? Do you want to be very far away from the Middle East and all the perennial problems there? Or perhaps you want to be really far away from the U.S. itself as this global octopus or global monster. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment, hit that notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And thanks for your thoughts as well in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.